What's up, guys? Welcome to the Start Today podcast. I'm your host, Chris Cavallini. Today, we have a fire Q&A episode for you. All of the questions came straight from you, our loyal listeners. We love this format. We have some awesome questions today. Looking forward to diving into that. Before we do that, I want to introduce to you guys my co-host in the building, in the new location, looking youthful, looking shredded, looking vascular, as always, the man, the myth, the sexual anti-aging guru and icon, Rick Schaff. Rick, what's happening, brother?
Well, now that's a hard one to live up to, but I'll take it for the moment.
It's all true. What's happening?
Just been busy.
Yeah.
Working on some real estate stuff. Little venture in Panama we could talk about sometime in the future.
Yeah, and I look forward to that because that's a really, really interesting concept, amazing opportunity. Good to see you taking your talents to other countries, making shit happen. So you got to do, man. You got to make moves.
You do.
So
risk. It's a big risk.
Yeah, hey, but you know.
But it seems to be the rewards.
High risk, high reward, baby.
I think so. Yeah.
How's everything else? How's your training going?
Training's good. I've been pretty, at the beginning of the year, I always get motivated by what you guys are doing here. Mm-hmm. And it lit a fuse under me.
Yeah.
I stayed very consistent with
we talked about that. We talked about that in January in an episode we did. And one of the things that you had mentioned that you were looking to integrate into your wellness arsenal was the sauna. And I have firsthand knowledge that you've stayed very consistent with that. And how would you say that's impacted, your game overall?
I'd say, I started to do it because of detox.
Mm-hmm.
That was the initial. And the more I got into it, it just became addictive because of the way it makes you feel for so long after. Mm-hmm. And that was the thing. I think it helps clear up your skin. Mm-hmm. There's some benefits that.
When we were in Mexico, you looked lean as fuck. And, that had been after a couple months of sauna use on top of everything that, you normally do. Obviously you always eat well, you always exercise, but you looked a lot leaner than what I guess I thought you would look. Cause this wasn't something that you really planned. I was like, hey, why don't you come out to Mexico for a few, and you just kind of showed up and I was actually really impressed with how lean you were. And do you think that, obviously you've been doing the sauna post-workout, right? So do you think that, those extra calories that you're burning in the sauna, if you're staying in 30, sometimes 40 minutes, as you mentioned, you're probably burning an extra 500 to 600 calories at that point. Do you think that's been helpful with?
It's all helpful together, of course. I think it's minimal, but I do think it's, it's that extra thing that we do. And how many extra things can you do?
Sure.
If you tighten your nutrition, it's pretty extra. If you stay consistent with your training and training hard and smart, it's pretty extra.
I think the sauna is so overrated. I think people...
Underrated or overrated?
Overrated. Oh. Or excuse me. Underrated. Extremely underrated.
Yeah, me too.
Extremely underrated. I think people don't understand that just popping in the sauna for a few minutes before their workout or after the workout, that ain't it. That might make you feel like...
Which is what most people do based on my observation of being in there.
That's what most people do. And that's... If you were to ask those people, they probably would say, I use the sauna. And that's not really using the sauna. It's not what you do as much as how you do it, because there's protocols and there's research. I talk about this all the time because I want people to get on the program. It's a valuable tool, but the protocol that seems to be, the most effective from a wide spectrum of health benefits is 3 to 4 times a week, 20 minutes per session at 180 degrees. And, be mindful of the temperature. Normally, most dry saunas are set at 180 degrees. Hey, if it's hotter, like even better, that's where you want to be. You want to be with the temperature cranked all the way up. That's where the magic happens. The 20-minute threshold, that's what's important. We're talking benefits from increased circulation. You mentioned detox, improved skin, all these things. It's going to burn more calories, help you lose fat. It also has benefits on your cognition. It has benefits on your mood. It has benefits for your recovery as a result of the circulation. It has benefits on your immune system. So much, in fact, that that protocol, the 3 to 4 days a week at 20 minutes per session at 180 degrees has been demonstrated to reduce the instances of all-cause mortality by up to 40%.
Yeah.
So in layman's terms, what that means for our listeners is the instances of getting a disease and dying from any sort of disease, which is how most people go ultimately, is reduced by 40% by just using the sauna.
Well, think about this too. Like a good analogy to explain it to people. I tell them, like, your DNA gets damaged over time from all these things we do, and just, being in contact with the sun too much and things like that, and irritants. And so when your DNA gets junked up, let's like picture a piece of paper that's crinkled up. When you stay in there and the heat shock proteins start to create in the body, they go and they unravel that paper and repair that DNA. That's pretty fascinating.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also an opportunity to build discipline and mental toughness, because look, it gets hot in there. It gets 20 minutes, 180 degrees. It gets hot. It gets miserable. It gets hard to breathe. It gets uncomfortable. But, being able to take command of your mind, to, focus on the breath, to control your mind and push through, there's a lot of good things that happen in that dynamic, not just the come up and discipline and mental toughness, but your confidence. Like, you just did something hard. You just kind of proven to yourself you could push past something that was very difficult.
I was telling somebody this yesterday that, it's uncomfortable when you're in there, just like an ice bath, but it's the same thing when you get out. It's this overwhelming feeling of feeling better than normal, and it lasts for hours.
Yeah. And that's the human reward system. There's a very real, very direct connection between the accomplishment of difficult things and experiencing feelings of pleasure and pride and satisfaction and gratification. That's essentially how human reward systems are built upon. And throughout the course of time, as we've evolved, there's just doing hard things and experiencing those feelings of wellness and happiness. Like it's real. And the more hard things that we can do voluntarily, whether it be the sauna, an ice bath, really, really hard workouts, it's also going to prepare us for, the hard things that life unexpectedly throws in our path. And, we're all going to get tested at some point, depending on where you're looking to go and how high you're looking to climb. The frequency of that will probably be a little more, there'll be more instances of that than others who, aren't getting after it as hard. So when you're conditioned already to feel those feelings of stress, it makes it to where it doesn't really override your senses and completely manipulate your physiology to where you can't think. You end up tapping out, you end up quitting, you end up getting so stressed that you throw your hands up and say, "F this." Yeah. When you condition yourself to be able to deal with stress and stressful situations, it makes things a hell of a lot easier when you're on the climb.
I agree.
So, well, without further ado, man, we get some really, really good questions. Let's just get after it.
All right, man.
What you got?
So we got question number 1. It says, Chris, thank you for your service to this country and what you're doing now for the entire world. Stepping way out of my comfort zone here, so I ask my name be kept confidential. I'm addicted to porn. I've never actually entertained the idea that it could be harming my relationships, work, and well-being until recently. What advice do you have for me, and from your perspective, how significantly can a porn addiction affect someone's life? Thank you for your guidance and empathy. Anonymous.
Yeah, so this is a really good question, and it's interesting because during this last round of questions that were submitted for this podcast, I received some version of this question 15 times. 15 different people asked 15 different ways. Not everybody necessarily stated they had an addiction, but a lot of people asked about this. And I think it was because of a piece of content I put on my story a while back that was just kind of a promotion tool for the podcast. But I think it made people think that I had released a podcast on it or I was going to, whatever it is. But it's interesting. This is something that people want to know because obviously a lot of people watch porn. A lot of people watch a lot of porn. So look, this individual, obviously, good for them for having the self-awareness and the courage to admit this and to ask, to seek counsel and to seek guidance. So, I respect that. I think it's cool. The fact of the matter is, porn is going to drain your energy. If you're watching it, obviously if you're watching it as much as this individual is to the point of an addiction, it's going to drain your energy. But at any level, it is going to drain your energy at to some degree. Now, people, like, there's research and there's real science behind this, because porn, just like drugs, alcohol, and other unhealthy addictions, it's something that people struggle with. And there's actually research that's been done on this. There's been a lot of studies. And what a common thing that you hear from people who struggle with porn addiction is just an overall lack of energy, drive, and motivation. And the reason that happens, and if you're watching porn regularly, it has actually been shown that it can potentially rewire your brain. Okay. And it's possibly linked to a decreasing amount of gray matter in the brain. For those of you who don't know what gray matter does, gray matter, the gray matter areas of the brain are linked to basically drive, self-control, motivation, all of these things. So problem solving skills, these type of things. So if you're consciously doing something that is actively decreasing your amount of gray matter in your brain, you're probably going to feel lazy. You're probably going to feel unmotivated. You're probably going to feel, not so willing or able to get up and get after it and kick some ass. So, the fact is you got to know that. You got to know that whether you're addicted or whether you're just watching, casually, to some level, it's going to make you a little lazier. It's going to make you a little less motivated, a little less driven. Now, if your levels of motivation and drive and self-control and all these things, if they're not a problem, I really wouldn't worry about it, because look, like, I'm not going to sit here and act like the golden boy who's never watched porn, because that would be a bold-faced lie. I think that people need to be aware of how they're feeling, of what's happening in their life. And, if they feel like they lack energy, if they feel like they're not feeling as motivated as they would like to, if they're not, making things happen in their life at the level that they want to, and they are spending any amount of time watching porn, maybe you want to look at that. Maybe you want to dial back on that and kind of see where you're at. The other thing about porn is when you're consuming it frequently, you're basically encouraging and promoting feelings of instant gratification. And that's obviously not advantageous on the human psyche. Delayed gratification, however, which of course is a form of self-discipline, that is basically a critical skill that's needed for goal setting, success, and just basically maintaining control of your life. So the more you can practice behaviors that promote delayed gratification, obviously the better position you're going to be in to succeed in life. This individual asked for some advice. I've worked a lot with people that have suffered from addiction and substance abuse, whether it's alcohol, drugs. Obviously, throughout the years, I employed a lot of these individuals, brought them into our culture, gave them an opportunity to basically be part of something where they would have the ability to have a productive, positive outlet to focus on, to, hopefully beat their addictions. And seen a lot of success, also seen a lot of failures. Beating addiction it's hard. It's not easy. But what I've learned and noticed, what the common denominator has always been between the people who are able to successfully facilitate that change and sustain it, versus the people who didn't, is they essentially replaced that unhealthy negative addiction with a positive one. Because you can't just drop something without replacing it. Because, when you're sitting, alone with your thoughts and, you're bored, it is only a matter of time before your brain gravitates back to the known, back to the familiar, back to the comfortable, and back to what you were used to.
I'll add too to that. I did some research on addiction too, back in the day, working with people. And I came across one doctor who had a really interesting theory. His theory was that people were chasing dopamine, that they weren't wired correctly in their brain to create enough. So when they did things like shop too much or had sexual addictions or stole things or whatever it is, it was because that made them feel better. It created a dopamine release.
Sure.
And they were just, in a long roundabout way, they were just trying to feel normal.
Right.
And then that addiction becomes an issue.
Yeah.
But they're chasing dopamine. I always thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. No, I mean, for sure.
To your point, if your addiction becomes like training or something like that, it's a much better addiction with much better dividends in the payoff. Sure. It's unbelievable. Right?
And there's, there's debate about this, but, there has been studies that have been done that show, individuals who are not like ejaculating as much are going to have higher levels of testosterone than people who are. So, I don't have concrete numbers like on that, but that's objectively true. So, with that said, testosterone is obviously as a man, it's pretty important. It's directly related to your physical energy, your mental energy, just your willingness to get up and just make things happen. I mean, if, people who have low testosterone or don't have sufficient levels of testosterone, they're going to be chronically fatigued, depressed, obviously struggle with their mood, overly tired, just not really have the energy that's needed to live life at the capacity it's capable of. So, it's one of those things where like you got to pick a positive, productive outlet to focus on. And does that mean like you completely stop watching porn forever? Honestly, maybe or maybe not. It all depends, because it really depends the severity of your addiction. Because if you were addicted to drugs or addicted to alcohol and it, was, destroying your life, destroying your relationships, destroying your career, just completely f***ing your shit up. When you give up drugs or give up alcohol, most people who have those severe addictions, like they don't go and dabble back into that because it kind of reactivates that cycle and that pattern. So everybody's different. Now, I'm not saying that, nobody here should watch porn. I'm saying be mindful of where you're spending your energy. Look, like we have a finite amount of energy every single day. And if we're deploying it into areas that are not really going to serve us, or not going to be, productive, or are just taking away from our ability to invest energy in the areas of our life that are going to serve us, then, we have to make that decision. Like, what's more important?
Agreed.
So, cool. Look, consuming porn frequently, it's probably not a good idea, and just like anything, maybe indulge in moderation. But if you're somebody who has an addiction, I think at a minimum, you have to test yourself and realize like, look, like, this is an opportunity for you to walk away from something that you're acutely aware, evidenced by the fact that you're submitting this question, to us to answer on this podcast today. Like, it's a problem. It's a problem. Now you have an opportunity to solve that problem. You have an opportunity to level up your confidence, your mindset, and your ability to just basically take control of your mind and do what is in your own best interest, as opposed to succumbing to two people f***ing on the internet.
Yeah. So, all right.
Yeah. Next question.
All right. Question number 2. Chris, love the podcast and your attitude. Thank you for what you do for us. So I'm changing careers and will be interviewing again for the first time in more than 12 years. Can you give me some direction or tips on how I can approach this to make myself stand out in the interview process without showing too much ego? Thanks in advance, Jeff W.
Yeah, it's an awesome question. Yeah. And good for you for, deciding it's time to make a change after that long. That's a bold move. Change is such a powerful thing. Sadly, it's also a thing a lot of people are afraid to do. So good on you, Jeff. As far as suggestions or tips to distinguish yourself during the interview process, obviously you want to show up on time for the interview, right? Mm-hmm. It basically starts with your resume. Like on your resume, you don't want to overly sell yourself and write all the things that everybody else writes. Yeah. You want to be able to communicate who you are in a clean, concise, organized manner. Don't have your resume be too long. Nobody, contrary to what you probably think, a lot of people want to basically list every positive thing that they can think about themselves, on a document.
Just out of curiosity, do people ever list their weaknesses when they come interview with you? Because it would be helpful.
Yeah.
If they did.
No, I've never really seen that. Yeah. I've never seen that, but people they try to write too much information and it becomes overwhelming. I don't know that I ever read a resume like every word on the resume. I look for certain things that I look for. And so like be mindful and be respectful of the individual who are reading these resumes, right? Whether human resources professionals, hiring managers, depending if on what stage of the process you're in, maybe it gets to an executive, maybe it gets to a CEO. Like be mindful of their time and their energy by making your resume a clear, concise snapshot of who you are in the most clear, just direct, simple manner. And where you're not overly trying to sell yourself. You're not trying to overly glorify that, that you're better than you really are. And that's what people actually do. People think that, a hiring decision very, very rarely is actually going to be made based off of a resume. Yeah. A resume is normally the thing that will dictate whether or not you're interviewed or not. Does that make sense?
Get you in the door.
Yeah. So look, do a good job with your resume, right? Be on time for your interview. That goes without saying. I shouldn't even have to say that. Yeah. You might want to edit that out because that's so elementary. Right. Be on time, goes without saying. Be early. On time for an interview is 15 minutes early. Show up, look the part of success. Look like somebody who has their shit together. What does that mean? It means come in with a pressed, suit. Jeff's a man, wear a suit, nice shoes, fresh haircut, like come in looking squared away, polished, ready to impress. I mean, you're judged literally by your appearance. That's the first thing anybody's going to see, whether it's the secretary that, you might check in with, or the hiring manager, the person you're going to interview with. Look the part. And when you're asked questions, stay humble, right? But be prepared, of course, and do your research on the company, understand what their core values are, their history, the mission. That is very, very important. You want to be able to communicate about the company and make it very, very clear that, you're not just out looking for a job. You're not just currently submitting even if you are, by the way, submitting your resumes to 50 companies. Like, you don't need a job. You want this job. You want to come work for this company, and you have to be able to intelligently communicate that in a way where it doesn't seem like you're trying too hard. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, being prepared is important, staying humble and not, again, overly selling yourself. Somebody asks you something along the lines, how would you rate your level of organization, or time management, or any skill that would be useful in a professional capacity? The default answer most people have is, they immediately go on how great they are. Oh, it's great. Really, really on point. I'm always on all this. Like, no, you're not. No, because nobody is. Like, nobody is at that level all the time. You want to stand out. You want to separate yourself. Like, hopefully those things are good, right? Yeah. But if somebody asks you, how would on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you honestly rate your time management? Be like, honestly, it's a 7. I'm on time. I hit deadlines. I'm somebody who likes to get things done in advance and not wait to the last minute. Yeah. But just like anything in life, there's always room for improvement, and there's always ways to be more efficient, to be more to be more effective, and to be more prepared. And I definitely think that there are some ways that I can and will and plan on improving on my time management. But for where I'm at right now, I would say a 7. But I'm very, very confident that I can, take that to the next level in the near future, just by putting the focus and time into it.
So that would be more refreshing to you than
much.
Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I'm the best ever. Because I agree. Also, too, I think
that demonstrates humility.
Yeah, and I also think it's important that if you're going to interview for a job and get that job, like, you want it to be a good fit both ways. Mm-hmm. Like, why do you want to get in as an imposter and then it's just a disaster?
You don't. Yeah, so, but by saying that, that in and of itself is going to separate you from 99% of people. Yeah. But most people, unfortunately, they don't think like that, because they believe any demonstration of vulnerability, honesty, or transparency is going to be a disqualifier. It's just not true. When people are honest, when people are transparent, and people are willing to take personal responsibility, which is what you are doing when you answer in that manner.
Yeah.
Personal responsibility is probably the most important thing that like I look for in people, especially in like a management leadership role, or just, someone who might be coming in a more junior management role, but potentially could be somebody I see moving up the ladder. And, that demonstrates that you have the willingness to improve, the desire to improve, and that you're somebody who was, who's honest. And most people did this bullshit their way through the hiring process, and, present themselves as something that they are not. And then, once in the event that they get hired, you see what you see. So I just think being honest and being transparent, and, when they ask you about your former job, and this is what a lot of people do. A lot of people will say, oh, well, I didn't like this. And why did you leave from a job? I didn't like this. And my supervisor, this and all this. Don't fucking do that. Don't do that. Like, do the opposite, like say, well, I was with this company for this long. And in that time, I learned this. It really helped me learn certain operating softwares better. I wasn't really proficient with computers. I had the opportunity to become a little more proficient with operating systems, Microsoft Office, all these things. Yeah. My former supervisor was a guy who had a tremendous amount of experience, and I learned a lot from him as far as the importance of planning in a way that I can maximize my productivity during the day by scheduling tasks. Like, give people credit, right? Give, the team that I work with who, they invited me in and we accomplished this together. Instead of talking about all the things that you did, which is what you'll see a lot of people do. They'll talk a lot about things that they did. Like they were single-handedly responsible for this $38 million project that was completed 4 months before it was scheduled to, and ended up saving the company $1 trillion. Like, dude, no, you didn't. Like, no, you didn't. You very well may have been part of that, but have the humility and like maturity to, not insult the interviewer's intelligence, and just be honest. And, we had this project, it was a $38 million project. And, I had the opportunity to work around some really, really good people, and we came together, and I actually was selected to take the lead on that. And because my team worked really hard and we communicated well, we actually were able to get it done ahead of schedule. It ended up saving the company this, and I give a lot of credit to the team. And that was a really, really fun project and learning opportunity. Yeah. That's a much different dynamic than, you're just talking about me. And most organizations run in a team atmosphere where, you're going to have to work alongside people and work with people to make things happen. So, cool. Another thing that I think would be awesome if people did a little more is pointing out resources that they've taken advantage of in the past at employers. Like if there's training tools available and, different systems, or people with experience that maybe in other departments saying like, look, yeah, the company had just a lot of training manuals that on my own time, I took the initiative to kind of learn a little bit about the roles and responsibilities of my supervisor, of some of my teammates in other departments, to give me a better understanding of what they do, so I could have a more real, like a better appreciation and knowledge bank, which ultimately helped me be more effective at my job. And just demonstrating that you're somebody who takes initiative, that takes advantage of resources, because you're somebody who's interested in improving, and you are aware that there's always room for improvement. And when you're asked questions directly about your level of proficiency with something, you have to understand that you're not as good as you probably think that you are, and that's okay. Like, having that knowledge that, like, you might be pretty good, you might have got good results in the past, but just knowing that there's always a next level, that type of awareness is, man, it's so impactful. Because if you are running around thinking that you're like really great at something, and it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, you basically close off any room for growth, because you're not looking for those learning opportunities or those growth opportunities. You know, your mind, you're already pegged at like, you know, hit the ceiling of how proficient you could be at that certain task. And, you know, demonstrating that you're somebody with a growth mindset, I think is really important to a potential employer as well.
Cool.
So maybe one more thing, I would actually, this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately as it relates to my own organization. I think that, I mean, this would without question separate you from the pack and other candidates that, you know, might be interviewing for the same position. If you, at the end of an interview, or, you know, they said if usually the interview that's, do you have any questions for us or anything else you'd like to add? Basically, you know, thanking the interviewer for their time, of course, and just saying, I just want to leave you with this. I understand that you probably have a lot of candidates to interview for this position. It's an important decision to make. And, you know, hiring the wrong people can be very, very expensive. So there's, you know, there's a lot that goes into that. I fully understand that. And I appreciate that. I want you to know that I'm so committed and confident in my ability to be exactly what you need, that I would be willing to actually come on board in a consulting capacity for 90 days where you'd have the opportunity to evaluate me in real time. I know I could sit here and talk about how great I am, and I could talk about all these things, and I can answer these questions to the best of my ability. I could do a much better job showing you. And because I'm so passionate and certain that this is the company that I want to work for, not only would I be willing to come on under that dynamic, but I'd be willing to do it for less compensation than what the actual position mandates in that consulting period. That's because I want to prove myself. Yeah. And man, I don't know that if anybody actually said that or delivered it like that, I would have unless they completely fucked up the rest of the interview prior, I don't really know that, you know,
hard offer to refuse.
I mean, that would be a very hard offer to refuse. It'd be very, very impressive seeing somebody who had that confidence and wherewithal to put that out there. Now, of course, that might not be a situation that everybody could do. Maybe in order to get that new job, they would have to leave their existing job. But even in that situation, if you're that confident, like, you should be willing to burn your boats and go all in and basically do the work needed to solidify and earn yourself a permanent position within that organization.
Right. Agreed. Good advice.
Yeah. Let's move on.
All right, Jeff.
Good luck, Jeff.
Good luck, man. Let us know what happens. All right. Number 3, what is your recommended best practice for absorbing and retaining most of the information you consume from books, podcasts, and other personal development tools? And that's at PF Power 91.
Yeah, that's a great question. I love that question. I get asked that question a lot. I think everybody's aware that I do a lot of personal development. I read a lot of books, listen to a lot of audiobooks. Very, very simple. Okay. All the books that I read vary in length. You know, there's books that are hundreds of pages, and there's books that are, 100 pages. Regardless of how long the book is, my objective is the same: to take one thing, just one action item from that book and implement it into my life. Okay, just one. I think people, especially people who are just starting their personal development journey, and maybe they don't read a lot, maybe they just read every once in a while, so they think that, well, I really got to get the most out of this because I don't do it very much. They overwhelm themselves thinking that, well, that they're reading, or maybe if they're listening to an audiobook and they're not fully focused on it, and or they're reading and then they catch their brains thinking about something else, and then they realize in that moment that they don't remember the last page and a half that they just consumed. I think people get too caught up in that. That's very, very, very fucking normal. Your goal, your mission with every book you read is to pull one thing, just get one thing that you then implement into your life. And if you do that every time with every book that you read, dude, over the course of time, ultimately you get to a point where you'll be fucking unstoppable.
Yeah, really.
The thing is, people think, oh, there's probably some good shit that I missed. Yeah, there very well might be, but there's probably some good shit that's to come. And the fact is, we can only receive so much and incorporate a certain amount of change all at once. Yeah. So even if a book had, let's say, 10 10 gems in it, 10 game-changing things that if you integrated in your life, it would literally take you to the next level. Understand that it's not possible to take 10 new things that you're not fucking doing and just start doing those things right away. It's incremental steps. You take one step at a time. You know, like when you're building a foundation, you let brick by brick by brick by brick, and you know, don't think that it's not okay to reread books. Like I reread books all the time, a lot of them, and that's the thing. Like it's impossible for you to retain and remember or integrate everything. I mean, like 25% of what you read in a book, because as you mature, as you expand your consciousness and just evolve as a human, if you go back to a book, as I do often, you're going to hear things that you didn't hear the first time. You're going to receive things that you didn't receive the first time. True. You're going to interpret things that you did read the first time in a completely different manner, from a completely different perspective, a higher level. So, you know, I would suggest taking note of books that, you know, really made an impact, and, you know, a year or 2 years later, revisit it. And again, the strategy is the same. Pull one thing, execute on that one thing, and, you know, keep moving forward.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. All right. Question number 4. What type of diet and workout do you suggest to get down from 30% body fat to under 10% at its Jesus?
Man, I have to be honest. When I get these questions, I get a little annoyed. I'm not annoyed that I'm asked the question. I'm annoyed that so many people in our society completely overthink this entire thing. They make it so complicated to the point where it prevents them from actually taking any sort of action, because they think that every situation is unique and requires a very specific customized formula that's designed like for them, for their blood type, for their DNA, for like all of these variables. The fact is, like, especially for a beginner or somebody who's at this, I mean, 30% body fat.
Yeah, you could pretty much do anything and start losing weight if you just make decisions. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but to give these people something practical, and to give this individual something practical, like the first piece of advice is stop overcomplicating it. Stop consuming so much information that you don't even understand. Like, people read all this stuff. They read this from this person and that from that person, this article and all this shit, and it sounds so complicated. And the fact is, it's not. You just don't understand it because you haven't put in any amount of time to actually understand nutrition, or a combination of a lack of knowledge and education as it relates to nutrition, exercise, fitness in general, and the lack of real life application and experience. Yeah. Because that's the biggest thing, is like, doing something is better than doing nothing, because at least during that process, you kind of stumble upon what works and what doesn't. Right. So the biggest thing is stop complicating that. Like, stop complicating the equation. Like, if you eat like shit and don't exercise, or don't exercise enough, or don't eat good consistently, just get consistent. Like, don't even worry about it. Just use good intentions with what you believe to be healthy eating and good exercise. And if you just did that, you'd be in a better place. Yeah. And then from that better place, you learn a little more. You take like one thing, right? Yeah. And then you incorporate that and you build from there. But if you're 30% body fat and you're trying to get on the same protocol as myself, or 10%. Like, you know, the fitness influencers that are shredded to the fucking bone that you see on Instagram, dude, that's going to be, it's impossible. Yeah. You cannot go, dude, it's impossible. Like, if you think about the things that I do so many different things between my nutrition, supplementation.
We wake up in the morning and everything we do is very deliberate. Yeah. Throughout the entire day.
And it's automatic now.
Yeah, it's our lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Right.
But to try to incorporate that in someone's life, it's like, it's too much information.
It's impossible to do all at once. We just discussed that. Implementing two.
You know what I used to tell my clients?
What's that?
Stop doing the things that got you where you are today, and start doing some of the things we know that make you healthy. Yeah. It's that simple.
Yeah. With me, I mean, I've been training I'm 38. I've been training since I started going to the gym at like age 12 or 13. When I was in 8th grade, I started going to the gym. So I've been doing this for, 25 years roughly.
The same way, man.
Started
at 12.
Yeah. I've been going a long time. And, what I did then was, 1/100th of what I'm doing now, but between stretching, between saunas, between breath work, between cold water immersion, between supplementation. And I'm not just taking, the majority of the supplements I take are health and wellness supplements. They're not sports supplements. And I think a lot of people associate supplements like pre-workout or protein. The, 80% of the supplements I take are for wellness. So we got to realize that you don't necessarily need what somebody like myself or somebody who's more experienced, somebody like Rick, what you don't need to do what we're doing necessarily. You just need to do a little better than what you're currently doing. But I have like 4 little simple things that I like to give people that if they can just focus on these things, man, they're going to be focus on these things consistently, of course. Yeah, sure. They will be in a very different place in a relatively short period of time. So first thing, 1 gallon of water per day. Okay. Water is so important in the health and wellness spectrum. It's a huge catalyst and contributing factor to weight loss. And it's also the easiest thing that you can do to be healthier is drink water, 1 gallon of water. And I always say, get a gallon, carry on a gallon. All right. Because that's the only way for you to actually monitor your intake and not have to spend, 37 trips to the faucet or fountain filling up some little bullshit water bottle. You're not going to do that. Like nobody's going to take that much time and energy. Like we're all fucking busy. Fill up a gallon, drink a gallon throughout the course of the day. Not 3/4, not half a gallon, drink a gallon or more. Okay. If you can do that consistently, if you do just that, okay, that's going to help move the needle.
Yeah, and it's hard at first, but it gets much easier the more you do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're going to have to piss a little bit more often when you first do it. But the human body is a beautiful, interesting thing in that you adjust. So although you're making those bathroom stops a little more frequently, eventually your bladder and your body adjust and normalize, and your schedule of, which you use the bathroom will be consistent with what it is now. Sure. So another thing, like, people get, I think, too focused, overwhelmed, and consumed with counting macros and counting calories, dude. It's a very difficult thing to do. Now, if you have had success doing that and it's not stressful for you and, whatever, like, do it. Cool. Like this, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the average person. I'm talking to myself. I've never counted calories in my entire life.
I don't either. I like the idea of it only because you learn more from it, but it's nothing that you need to do for a long period of time.
It's difficult and it requires a lot of extra energy. But what I have found to be successful is monitoring protein intake.
Yeah.
So monitoring your protein intake by having a goal of consuming 1 gram of quality protein per pound of body weight. If you eat in that manner, the chances are your other macronutrients, carbohydrates, fats, chances are those will kind of fall into where they actually need to be to get you where you want to be. It is way too overwhelming to count calories. It takes way too much energy. And that's the thing, like when you're doing something new and you're making a lifestyle change, you already have all that extra energy that needs to go into that and all the other things. Like anywhere we can conserve energy, we need to take advantage of that. So my suggestion is to only track protein, to make a conscious, dedicated, I don't want to say effort, like there's no effort. You're either going to do it or you're not. Get in 1 quality gram of protein per pound of body weight. What does quality protein look like? Well, I mean, chicken, right? Chicken breast, lean ground turkey, 93% or more, bison, lean ground beef, any kind of lean, red meat. I mean, people are like, oh, I shouldn't, red meat is bad for you. It's like, no, it's not. It's actually really good for you. If you're eating too much of anything, it's probably not going to serve you well. But I eat at least 1 meal of red meat per day, whether it's bison, ground beef, steak. Obviously it's high quality, but high in protein, high in iron, high in healthy fats. So a lot of it is just kind of breaking existing stigmas about, I mean, yet red meat, like is in like McDonald's and like processed like bullshit like that stuff ain't good for you. But getting in the 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is really, really going to help you, regardless if you're trying to lose, especially if you're trying to lose fat. But people underestimate how important protein is. What I say, underestimate. Yeah, right. I said underestimate. People underestimate how important protein intake is to the fat loss process. When you're losing weight and losing fat, you want to be also building lean muscles. So as you know, you're shedding layers of fat off, your body is actually developing lean muscle tissue, which is going to do 2 things. It's going to make your physique actually look aesthetically appealing and not leave you with that dreaded skinny, fat, kind of gross, unhealthy look. And it's also going to give you the ability to accelerate the fat loss process, because the more lean muscle tissue your body has, the higher your RMR, your resting metabolic rate, which is basically the amount of calories your body burns throughout a 24-hour period. People overestimate how many calories they burn while training and don't recognize that the bulk of the calories that you're going to burn throughout the day are the calories that you just burn like at rest, whether you're sleeping, whether you're at your desk. And the more lean muscle you have on your frame, the more calories and therefore the more body fat you're going to burn throughout a 24-hour period, provided, of course, you're in a calorie deficit.
Right.
The other thing, the third thing is eating on a schedule. And what I mean by that is coming up with a time that works for your lifestyle. I was talking to one of my employees yesterday. He's relatively new. He's been here a few months, 25-year-old, and he's just learning about this lifestyle. He's in good shape. He's young, active, but he's looking to kind of step things up. And he's, how many times should I be eating per day? Somebody like with, my size, with my goals and my level of activity. And I said, honestly, it doesn't really matter how many times you eat per day. What matters is you figure out like what is sustainable for you. So if it's sustainable for you to eat a meal every 4 hours, that's fine. If you can eat every 2 hours, cool. Most people can't, right? That commitment of eating every 2 hours is not something that's sustainable for the majority of us. And a lot of people also believe that, if they want to get in shape, they want to lose weight, they have to eat 6 meals a day.
Yeah.
Right. That bullshit myth that comes from, the bodybuilding process. So my recommendation to people is 4 meals. Like that's what I do. I do 4 meals, plus I do like some pre-workout and post-workout nutrition, right? Maybe it's like some oats, some a protein shake, but that doesn't count as a meal. That's just my pre or post-workout nutrition. 4 meals is sustainable. It's simple. And it's something that, that's what we advocate for our clients. That's the system that we've created with Nutrition Solutions. And, we have helped over 75,000 people, over the last several years, help take their health and fitness to the next level. Right. And it's proven effective. So, there are people out there who say, oh, well, the number of meals that you don't eat matters. Well, it absolutely matters to somebody who doesn't know what the hell to do and is looking for some direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I say 4 meals because it's sustainable and it creates a situation where, the other argument with fat loss is, oh, well, it doesn't matter if you eat 2 huge meals, whatever. By eating 2 meals per day, it is going to make it very, very difficult for you to get in 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. If you're just eating 2 meals, you would have to eat
a lot.
Dude, a massive amount of meat, steak, protein shake, whatever.
Right. Think about that. So it's 1 pound of protein per body weight, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're suggesting. So yeah.
So if you were 200 pounds, 200 grams, like let's say, the average protein source has 7 grams of protein per ounce. Yeah. Dude, that's a insane amount of protein. I can't even do the math on that. But that's why I think spacing it out is so important. And that's the other thing, like drawing more awareness again to how important protein intake is. Sure, you can lose fat. You can lose fat eating 2 meals a day. But do we want to just lose fat, or do we want to lose fat, be healthy, and actually have a aesthetic looking physique that we're proud of and actually will make us feel more confident.
Because remember, muscle is what gives you shape. Fat gives you shape too, but it's not necessarily the shape you want.
not the desired shape.
Yeah.
So yeah, eat on schedule, however many hours that is, 3 to 4 hours. And look, if, you're going between this meal and this meal, 3 hours like clockwork, but then the other meal's 4 hours, like whatever, that's unimportant. As long as you stay within those parameters, get in your 4 meals, get in that 1 gram per pound of body weight, get in that gallon of water, and stay consistent, which means even on weekends, okay? Like it is very, very easy to fuck up 5 days of discipline with 2 days of complacency.
And look, we're rooting for you. So just don't take on too much.
Yeah.
Just start slow.
One step at a time, baby. I mean, and these are all very actionable, simple, actionable items that, that anybody can do. And I would make the argument that, you could actually probably integrate 2 out of 4 of these things at once. Do that for a week or 2 weeks. Get committed with that. See some results for that. Get excited, and then incorporate the next thing. Stay consistent with that, and the whole game will fucking change.
Yeah. And the other thing that you asked was about workout, and honestly, it just
same thing.
Yeah. Just do something that you like to that creates movement. If you like to play basketball or badminton or volleyball or row a boat, do that because you'll do it. And then that's what you want to do is just that will create circulation of all the nutrients you put in your body. And your body will start to work.
Yeah. And another tangible for this person or anybody out there, for those of you guys who like to do cardio, which I suggest everybody does, cardio is awesome. Yeah. Okay. That shouldn't represent the primary output of your training, but it should be in there somewhere. Okay. And it's not just about fat loss. It's about heart health. It's about wellness. It's about just, the mental benefits. It's just overall good health and wellness. Cardio is something everybody should be doing. If fat loss is your goal, cardio is certainly a good tool to kind of aid in that, in that journey. You want to make sure that when you're doing cardio, you're actively engaged on the cardio. You're moving your ass. You're moving with purpose. You're not slowly, casually strolling on a treadmill, messing around on your phone. You're not leaning on the machine, right? See a lot of people like literally leaning all their body weight on the Stairmaster, going slow. That ain't it. And although you're burning calories, what you have to keep in mind is you're burning calories whether you're on that machine or sitting on your ass. The whole purpose, and you should be doing cardio after you weight train, after you do your resistance training, because at that point, your heart rate is already elevated. Yeah. Okay. So then you go into the cardio and you perform it at a level where you maintain that elevated heart rate. And, you got to be in what's known as the fat burning zone. Okay. Those little handles on the cardio machine that you motherfuckers ain't using, those are there for a reason. I'd make the argument maybe 3% of people use those things or even know or maybe they use them and then see the number, but have no idea like how to practically apply it in a way that's beneficial. So use those handles, check in with those throughout your cardio session. And the formula for that, okay, 220 minus your age. 220 minus your age is going to give you a number. Okay, you're going to divide, or your 70% of that number is your fat burning zone and your target heart rate. So you want to make sure when you check in and monitor your heart rate that that number is not just there, but it's above there, right? Because we don't just do like the bare minimum. We don't just do like, what's required. We go above and beyond. We always do a little more than what is required. That's important. Check in with that. Get used to that. That'll give you an immediate come up. And then the other thing I suggest people start getting in the habit of is instead of doing a time with cardio, I like to do a calorie goal. I like to set at the beginning of it, I'm going to do this amount of calories, whether it's 300, whether it's 400, 450, whatever it is, that's my goal. And obviously I'm going to be mindful. I'm going to push myself. And at the end of that, I have a little bit of an awareness. Okay, I did 300 calories today, and I did, let's say I'm on the elliptical. I did 300 calories today, and I did it in 24 minutes, right? So I have that little awareness, and the next time I do it, I'm going to try to beat that time, and I'm going to incrementally continue to do that. So I have some metrics of a way to measure my results and measure my progress and keep pushing myself to kind of take it a little further. Yeah. So cool. Either way, it's 300 calories, but the difference is, I could do 300 calories. I think I've done it in 17 minutes on an elliptical before. And the difference between, doing 300 calories in 17 minutes and 24 minutes, it's not like, oh, 300 calories, doesn't matter. Well, when you do it in less time, your heart rate is obviously going to be significantly more elevated, which means once you stop, it's going to continue to be significantly more elevated, which means you're going to continue to burn calories, way beyond that time of which you're on the cardio machine. True. These little tidbits, man, like it's educating yourself, understanding kind of the why, and not just thinking that you're going to jump on a machine for a certain period of time and just, wake up the next day and look like a fitness model. So
just in conclusion, drink a gallon of water a day.
Yep.
Stop eating bad foods. Start eating good foods about 4 times a day.
1 gram.
And incorporate some kind of movement into your life. And as you get more and more inclined to all this, you can keep going up a level.
And I'm glad you just recapped that. Something that I think will be very, very helpful for our listeners. The 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Okay. That's hard to do. That's like that would represent a lot of food.
Because most people don't do that.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't do that all from food. I will do a minimum of 50 grams of protein per day from a high quality protein shake. I use protein from Cage Muscle and First Form. I love both of them. Yep. The Cage Muscle stuff, I throw in the blender. I make kind of, more fancy shakes, add a little almond butter, some oats, whatever. First Form, I do right after my workout. It's in a shaker cup, add some water, shake it up and drink it. So I'm doing 50 grams of protein from a protein supplement to make it effortless to hit that threshold.
Yeah, I mean, everyone at a higher level pretty much does.
Everybody does. Yeah. Everybody does. So if you're but people say, oh, well, I heard it's good to get the majority of your protein from food. Well, yeah, it is. And we are. Like we're getting, I'm about 200 pounds. So if I'm getting 150 grams of protein from food and 50 grams of protein, I am getting the overwhelming majority of my protein from food.
Yeah.
So,
and it also, just to let you know, it's from milk protein for the most part.
Yeah, high quality protein. Not all protein is created equal.
Yeah, no.
Dude, let's call it there. I think we did enough. I know there's one other question there, but it's getting a little hot in here. We had to kick off the AC to have the proper noise cancellation. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Efficient, under an hour. Guys, we really appreciate you taking the time to listen. I would appreciate it so much more if you took the time to leave us a review. I am just forever slacking on asking you guys to leave the reviews. And it's obvious that most people don't realize how important that is to us, to the show. It helps us grow. It helps us reach more people. It gives people, that are scrolling around iTunes that might come across the podcast, it gives them an opportunity to see the kind of impact that the show is having on its listeners, guys. And that's why we do this. This costs us money. We don't make money from this. This costs money to put on. Not only that, it's a significant investment in our time and energy. We genuinely care about making the world a better place. We want to leave this earth a little better than we found it. And you guys can help us do that at a higher level by just taking the time to leave the review. Very, very simple, very quick, and just know it means a lot to us. And we love reading them, and we'll look forward to seeing some of you guys' success stories and learning a little more about how the podcast has made an impact on your life. You got anything else, Rick?
No, man. Thanks for the questions, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah, well, thank you for today, Rick. This was good. And guys, kick ass this week. Crush it. You already know. Go harder. Step it up. Whatever you're doing, do more of it. And we'll check in with you again soon. Later.